First thing first, can you imagine what's about to happen? Is Weezy the dragon? I link with the dragon.
What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of Car Ride Reactions. Today I'll be breaking down How to Train Your Dragon. Don't mind the water all over my hat and shirt. It's just pouring outside the theater. Had to walk a little far in the parking lot to get back, but rain, sleet, or shine, man, we're gonna get this. We're gonna get these things out. So that being said, let's go. So How to Train Your Dragon, obviously a live action remake to, I think it came out in like 2010, 2011. I actually worked at a movie theater. So a little background on me. My first job ever was at a movie theater at a Cinemark in Tinseltown, or Cinemark in Louisville called Cinemark Tinseltown. And for the 2 years I worked there, I mean, I probably saw 70% of the movies that came out. It was like my first weekend working there was when I think the second Twilight movie came out, and I was definitely there when the third one came out too. So you know, just that kind of era of films. Anyway, so even though I probably was a junior or senior in high school when the first one came out, I ended up seeing it just because one of the perks of that job was free movie tickets as long as the movie wasn't sold out. So I ended up seeing and I remember like thinking it was surprisingly good. You know, voice cast back then was all kind of like those Judd Apatow guys. Like Jonah Hill was voice cast. T.J. Miller was in it. McLovin was a voice cast member. I forget the name of the guy that was the lead voice guy, but if you ever seen like She's Out of My League or This Is the End, he's that guy. So the original was a good movie, and you know, obviously there's a trend right now of doing some live action remakes, and they're kind of hit and miss. I mean, I'll kind of go over maybe some of what I think are good live action remakes at the end of this, but this was one that I felt like was warranted. Like when they started announcing that this was going to be something they were making, I was immediately intrigued. I was like, I kind of want to see a live action version of that, because the first one was so interesting and kind of groundbreaking. And then I think what makes this even more interesting to me, or appealed more to me, was the whole epic universe side of it, which the Isle of Berk, which is the location of the movie, is going to be one of the main worlds of the epic universe. I think it's like Isle of Berk, there's like a monster universe. I think they're extending Harry Potter, and there's like Super Mario World. So I wanted to see the movie so that whenever I go to the epic universe, I can kind of have more of an educated opinion. And this movie got me hyped for that, actually, because I think, as much as I like the original story, I think what the live action version of this movie did that was so cool was just like immerse you in that world. Like it felt very impressive at times to see not only like the setting, but like the way they mixed in kind of the CGI dragons with the setting. And you know, to make a movie go from like kind of that CGI animation like the whole movie was, the original one, to live action, like there's some things like the combat, because they're Vikings and when they fight, that I feel like are difficult to do, and this movie nailed everything. I think this actually was genuinely an enhancement of the original film. This wasn't like Lion King, where it was like, I mean, I guess it was cool to see like kind of a realistic version of this, but we didn't need this. It's not better than the original. Aladdin, I think's overly hated. I did like Aladdin, to be honest with you, the remake of that, but we didn't need that either. This was one that it felt like a good idea. It felt like it's such a cool world and such a cool story, and I feel like, honestly, like on the business side of it, I feel like there's a lot of marketing even before the epic universe piece of it, that kind of, and like a lot of like toy and trademarks that I feel like were into this. So to me, it made sense for them to do this one, and boy did they nail it. I think one of the things I saw before the movie was the original, I don't know if it was a director or writer, but some of the main people that were involved in the original one from 2010 or 11 or whatever it was were heavily involved in this. And candidly, I didn't see the new Lilo and Stitch movie, but I haven't heard some of the things that I haven't liked some of the things that I've heard about it in terms of changes they made that I think were, you know, out of context. They definitely don't sound like good decisions. You know, maybe at some point I'll get around to seeing that. In this one, I think all they did was add to it. I mean, the original movie I think is like an hour and a half, and this one's a little over 2 hours. So I think more dialogue. The first flight scene where Hiccup and Toothless are like real, like they've at this point they've already flown, but when the first one where he's got the cheat sheet and then the epic music's playing and it's kind of one of those like uplifting moments in the movie, that was probably a little longer in this one, and man was it cool. They really nailed that scene. I was a big fan of how they did that. That was the scene that made me be like thinking about, oh, what kind of rides are they gonna do in at Epic Universe that are like around this, because there was a lot of moments where I'm like, yeah, this scene was built for an amusement park, or this is great marketing for an amusement park ride, because this looks very good. Also, Toothless looks great. I mean, I thought all the dragons look great. Toothless looks sick. Team Toothless, by the way, of all the like fictional dragons that are kind of like mainstream in pop culture, Toothless definitely up there as a really cool dragon. Cool dragon and adorable. So Team Toothless. Yeah, I mean, acting was pretty good. I think the kid's name is that was in the movie is Mason Thames, and he looked familiar to me. So when I was sitting there at the end after it ended, I like Googled his name. If you've ever seen The Black Phone and they're actually making a sequel to this, that's the same kid in that. So I think this kid, he's pretty young. I don't even think he's 20 years old yet. He's probably going to be a pretty big name. And then a lot of the other young actors, I know the one kid was in Deadpool 2, and a couple of them look familiar, except for the girl that played Astrid. She didn't look too familiar to me, but they all did a really good job. And then I didn't realize that Gerard Butler was the dad, but it took me like 5 minutes into the movie to be like, that's Gerard Butler. And when I did pick that up, I was like, this is actually a great casting choice. He did a great job. So, cool casting. It's not like, I think the most difficult acting scenes are honestly that kid that played Hiccup, Mason Thames. He had a lot of scenes where he's basically alone with Toothless, which, if you know anything about kind of like behind the scenes, how that works, that kid is basically either acting with nothing and which is a form of insanity. To be honest, like I've heard actors say that, like acting alone by yourself is a form of insanity. And in that sense, for a kid that young, it's probably tough for him to be in front of all those people and do those scenes, just because not having a lot of experience doing that. But he did a really good job in them, and I think the other way they'll do that too is they'll put you with like a tennis ball or something like that. So which would also be kind of an awkward way for a young kid to be shooting a scene. Sometimes emotional scenes, because it's in a lot of ways it is like a pet story. It's him finding. It's akin to a lot of ways to like the old movies of like a young boy finding a dog and befriending it. It's got like a lot of elements of that to it. But I think this was a hit. I wouldn't be surprised if this makes a lot of money. I wouldn't be surprised if it's one of the more like children's movies that comes out this year. I'm thinking I'm gonna give this one. I'm gonna give this one 8.5 out of 10. I'm not gonna go full 9 with it, just because a couple line deliveries could have been better in a couple moments, and when I leave a movie, I'd like to feel like it's unique. So I'm probably unfairly docking it a little bit because it is a remake. For a remake of a movie, it's a 10 out of 10 of a remake, but just as a movie as a whole, I'm gonna go 8.5 out of 10 on it. I think it absolutely is worth going to see in theaters. I think it's worth seeing on the biggest screen you can. That was a fun movie and a good movie theater experience. One of the better ones of the year so far for me. At some point, I'll sit down at the end of June after F1 comes out and kind of rank what I think were the better movies of the first half of the year. But for now, that's definitely up there for me. I highly recommend. Especially for anyone that liked the first one. If you didn't see the first one, I still would recommend. I think they're going to make enough to... I know they made sequels of the original animated one. I assume there's sequels coming to this. So if you liked it, there'll be more. And especially if that amusement park's making money, which I'm sure it's making money right now. But on that note, Trailers beforehand, I don't know if there was any like crazy new trailers for this before this one, but I am very excited for Superman. As the new trailer for that keeps coming out, I'm very excited, guys. I have a gut feeling we're gonna leave July thinking to ourselves, maybe not right after July, because Fantastic Four will be what we've seen last, but I got a feeling we're gonna walk out of July thinking to ourselves, Superman was the one. That was the one that stole the show. So anyway, guys, that's it for now. I don't think I'll be back till F1. Ken will be here for F1. We're real excited for that one. That could be a movie of the summer option as a dark horse candidate, especially for the big franchises, the non-Marvels, the non-Jurassic Park, those for something new. This might be the movie of the summer. So we'll be back for that. As always, thanks for watching. Leave a like, comment, suggestions. We're still taking feedback. Have a great one, y'all. Later.